On this baccalaureate night, set apart from all others, let us be together in a spirit of reflection. Let us reflect on how full our lives have become through learning and living together in this unique and beautiful place, through the relationships that have so enriched who we are and who we are becoming, through the difficult moments, the joyful and funny moments, and the moments of surprise, through supporting our children, siblings, grandchildren, and students in their experiences at Kalamazoo College, and through the profound act of learning from all that has happened during the last 4 years. As we cast our hearts and minds to this special final evening, the last evening this extraordinary class will spend together at Kalamazoo College, let us acknowledge our gratitude for this time. Let us invite nostalgia to wash over us, and let us fully be here and in this moment together. Please be seated.
Thank you, Jim Turner and the College Singers. Good evening. It is my pleasure to welcome you, our 2014 graduates, families, faculty, staff, and friends to our baccalaureate service. Baccalaureate is a medieval term, Latin term, used to refer to the degree that our graduating students will receive tomorrow, and it is a term that refers to a traditionally religious ceremony held immediately preceding graduation. It has long been an important and joyful celebration in the life of a college. Our modern baccalaureate ceremony this evening is a broad and personal reflection and celebration of the value of a K education. Our college motto is Lux Esto, or Be Light, and we hope to shed some light on the unique qualities and lessons learned as members of this community. This ceremony has student fingerprints all over it in the planning, organization, and invitation of speakers and performers, and that is exactly as it should be. We are glad that you are all here with us tonight. Welcome to this reflection and to the celebration.
Elegy. This poem begins with an epigraph. What to do with this knowledge that our living is not guaranteed? Perhaps one day you will touch the young branch of something beautiful, and it grows and grows despite your birthdays and the death certificate, and it one day shades the heads of something beautiful or makes it useful to the nest. Walk out of your house, then, believing in this, nothing else matters. All above us is the touching of strangers and parrots, some of them human, some of them not human. Listen to me. I am telling you a true thing. This is the only kingdom, the kingdom of touching, the touches of disappearing things.
Letters to a young poet. Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves. Like locked rooms and like books that are now written in a very foreign tongue, do not now seek the answers, which cannot be given you because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer. Blessing the boats. May the tide that is entering even now, the lip of our understanding, carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love your back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever. And may you, in your innocence, sail through this to that.
That this heart of mine embraces all day through. Ooh, in that small cafe, the park across the way, the children's carousel, the chestnut trees, the wishing well. I'll be seeing you in every day, in everything that's light and gay. I'll always think of you that way. I'll find you in the morning sun, and when the night is new, I'll be looking at the moon, but I'll be seeing
Thomas Edison once wrote, "Restlessness is discontent, and discontent is the first necessity of progress. Show me a thoroughly satisfied man, and I will show you a failure." There's a lesson to be had in this quote, and it is the unifying lesson of our time here at Kalamazoo College. We learn a dizzying number of things in and out of the classroom. Some of us could tell you all there is to know about the way a particular strand of protein folds, or explain every possible interpretation of Great Expectations. Others yet could render oil on canvas or wind through brass in a way that'd make your heart stop. In 4 years, you might learn how to make your resume shine or how to sell your liberal arts degree in an interview. You might be forced to figure out how to get on with your neighbor in a country whose language you barely speak. Certainly, by the end of our time here, we've at least figured out how to share a confined living space with others. You could go to many schools and get these things. They aren't what set us apart. There is an unaccounted catalyst that turns our education, experiences, hard work, and persistence into progress and innovation. Most simply, it is discontent, that trait that Edison spoke of, the trait that unifies us in our time here. Now, I don't mean to say that these 4 years have taught us to be unhappy. On the contrary, what makes K special is that by the end of our time here, we've got this discontent coursing through us, and it feels good. It is incredible how simple this is, yet it's what sets our education apart. We aren't merely given a list of information with the expectation we can regurgitate it come test day. No, this school has asked of us more than that. Our professors have demanded that we think critically of what is laid before us. Kay has told us it's not good enough to just be satisfied. I'm not talking about the type of discontent that every other pundit means when they wag their finger at our generation. This is not the discontent of the caricatured undergraduate in their final year, brooding and indignant. The discontent I'm talking about is one that we all know well. It's the thing that kept you up those extra hours in the final stretch of your SIP. It's the feeling you got when your prof gave you a B on your first midterm and you worked 3 times as hard to get an A. It's the reason why you took that unpaid internship with the congressional campaign, and it's the reason why you went with the 5th sculpture and not the 1st. Discontent is why many of us push for reform in and out of the bubble. 4 years of a Kalamazoo education taught us that when we learn something, we ought to do so actively and find happiness in that engagement. At K, we learned to say, good enough, less, and let's make this better, more. Our generation is unfairly judged as one filled with complainers, not problem solvers. But we all know there's plenty to be discontent about. That's the truth of the matter. And I'm not just talking about the usual suspects here. You know, the economy is an absolute mess. We're facing a horrendous job market. There seems to be an energy crisis, and our children, God knows what future they face. We're still young, though, and we'll need a minute to sort this mess. Yes, this all makes for a terribly unsatisfying, discontent-worthy situation. But I'm not just talking about these grandiose goals. Not all of us want to change the world. We all have our own ways of being happy and finding fulfillment. Some of us want to focus on our family and raise children. Others want to travel the world until their passports explode and their backpacks disintegrate. And some of us never want to leave academia. The list goes on, and most of us probably don't just want one thing for our life. It will be discontent that will keep us going, pushing us to work a little harder, care a little deeper, explore a little further, and innovate a little more. The point is this. Kay has taught us a lot of different things these past few years. Along the way, we've gotten an idea of what makes us happy. The one thing that has united us here will do so as we move forward into the so-called real world. It is that persistent discontent and the fulfillment we get from forging ahead.
I want you to all to lower your expectations immediately. Lux esto. Of the tens of thousands of academic institutions in the world, all grappling for a pithy bit of Latin to put on their seal, You can well imagine that looks light may be very popular. In fact, it is. And I think, in fact, Luxesto is shared by two other institutions who will remain nameless. My own alma mater uses lux as well. Theirs was a lux et veritas, light and truth. And although I will confess that I had plenty of moments of darkness and falsehood, why would they want to advertise that? Truth and light sounds a lot better. But it is still a far cry from be the light. This is an imperative, and in typical K fashion, it is a call to action. You must illuminate. So I was pondering what kind of illumination that meant, and for some reason I was taken back to a TV show that my kids used to like. It was called CSI, Crime Scene Investigation. I think it's still on in some spin-off or Descendant or something. And there was one thing that they used to do that always used to drive me crazy. There would be this crime scene. It was dark. It had been secured by law enforcement officers, and now the crime scene investigators had to go in. And they walked into the darkness, and the way they walked into the darkness was holding flashlights like this. Right? And it drove me crazy. I mean, will somebody just hit the light switch? I mean, why not provide some general illumination to the situation? But, of course, we're not after general illumination. We're after particular illumination in that gesture. This is a lot like that unique human gesture of pointing. Pointing is, I've been told, not even prevalent in our closest evolutionary relatives, current relatives, chimpanzees. It is a gesture that is almost uniquely human. It directs the attention, as the light does, away from one who is holding the light, away from ourselves. It directs our full attention away from ourselves. As a teacher, I've got to tell you that this type of illumination, this kind of pointing is I think it's one of the richest expressions of what it is to truly be human. To focus attention, mutual attention, on a third object. You parents know what I'm talking about. It's one of the great joys of parenting, too, to quote unquote, read a picture book with a child, and you're each pointing for each other. And without meaning to do so, that act of pointing actually connects parent and child, and student and teacher. Learning depends actually, I believe, on being completely absorbed, being completely lost within a work of literature, experimental process, a sculpture, a symphony, whatever, what have you. Only that intense giving over of ourselves might give us the possibility of fully understanding an experience beyond ourselves from another point of view. So, although we illuminate, we point to the object, we are actually illuminating and enlightening ourselves.
To the class of 2014, a love poem. 4 years ago, we thought ourselves wise. Seated under the September sun, we played a game to see who cared less. Growing fidgety in our seats as we strained to hear various speakers convince us that we were extraordinary. They told us that this institution was proof of that fact, and by finding our place here, we would forge a path for our future. But we were more concerned with the humidity, the first taste of college still lingering on our tongues. As we created the processional through our professors, faces still strangers, faces we would come to know well, I felt reborn into this community. Mistaken, I thought we were beginning a commitment to Kalamazoo College. But from the first day of orientation, we began a commitment to each other. As the years went on, we learned how to live week by week, how to survive a full year of seasons in one day, blackouts, polar vortexes, ice storms, and sips. How bittersweet victory tasted in our weekly Who Slept Less competitions. How to build makeshift homes in Hicks and the library, how to disregard the Richardson Room's annual name changes, how to live graciously both on and off the beach. Occasionally, we learned something in the classroom as well. But even then, we refused to conform, to become passive receptacles of facts and theory. We found and fought for what we believed in. We disagreed. We failed. We were daydreamers disinterested in waking up. We rose not only to our potential, but strove to new heights, all without considering ourselves special, without realizing that we were extraordinary. I stand in awe of you today, and all that you stand for, which cannot fit within the margins of this page, like the size of your hearts, the depth of your conviction, the courage you hold, the fire in your resilience. You have offered this institution and me much more than I could offer in advice or encouragement. I say this to you now because it is my last chance to convince you that you are no ordinary class of graduates. There is nothing run-of-the-mill about this group, nor will there ever be. 4 years ago, after convocation, I walked back to my dorm room in Hoban, alone, excited, frightened. I set my bedding, unpacked my clothes, hung up wall decorations, concerned with creating my place amongst those things in that small corner room. 4 years later, I stand before you today, excited, frightened, but not alone. After the papers, all-nighters, missed opportunities, second chances, we each carry with us countless memories and lessons, experience that have carved out our place on this historic block of Academy Street. Stories that unite us in this common home, one that spreads far beyond these buildings of red brick and mortar.
Hello, everyone. What a pleasure it is to be here with you. Good evening to everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you to those of you who invited me to speak. A little nervous. But I am honored to have these few minutes to share my thoughts with you. So I've been asked to meditate on the theme of light for this event, and as I discussed this invitation with my father in Puerto Rico, where I'm from and where I was just visiting for a few days, he gave me the idea with which I shall begin. To start with the Father as the origin of ideas in the secularized house of the Christian God is no small irony for me. Having devoted my energies as a teacher in large part to criticizing the socio-political forms of domination enshrined by patriarchy and religious dogmatism, practicing what you might call a heathen learning. Nonetheless, this request has given me the opportunity to reflect briefly on secular thought and secular criticism in relation to my task as an educator, for which I am grateful. I shall therefore reflect first of all on being light, or what it means to say that we are beings of light in a linguistic sense, and leave the meditation on quantum physics and the being of light, or beings as light, that it proposes, in conjunction with yogic philosophy on the nature of consciousness for another occasion. Perhaps one less formally marked by the remnants of a Christian basis for philosophy. So according to my father, I should begin with the word. That is, with a linguistic analysis of the phrase lux esto. He is right, of course. This is indeed the logical place to begin a philological analysis of the meaning of this phrase, and I will not be the first nor the last to do just that. However, many of you will be familiar with the two ways one can say to be in Spanish. That is, ser and estar. They both mean to be, but the first reflects a transcendental understanding of being. To be, as in ser, is an intrinsic notion of self, which el ser is although a pseudonym of. The other form of to be, or estar, places emphasis on being as a process. This estar is to be in the moment, to be here, to be in a particular state or non-state, in a mood, a mind frame, or within this time, as opposed to other possible states of being. It is an ontological basis for being in and for knowing the world, through the self that is here and now, that is, through a notion of the self as evanescent and ephemeral, instead of eternal. And so it is that from my native language of Spanish, I can draw the connection between the school's motto and my pedagogy, which is oriented toward a praxis of liberation. A woman I greatly admire, the great Indian literary scholar Gayatri Spivak, has argued that the task of the humanities in our present condition is, quote, the uncoercive rearrangement of desire, unquote. And so, as an anthropologist, I am a secular humanist, and as an intellectual, I am committed to a politicization of desire, as well as a politics and poetics of desire, that I hope can produce new possibilities for human action and freedom. I draw my notion of humanism from the great Edward Said, who argued that, quote, the core of humanism is the secular notion that the historical world is made by men and women, and not by God, and that it can be understood rationally according to the principle that we can know things according to the way they were made, unquote. This is also how we must come to know ourselves, as Antonio Gramsci has put it, quote, the starting point of a critical elaboration is the consciousness of what one really is, and is knowing thyself as a product of the historical process to date, which has deposited in you an infinity of traces without leaving an inventory. Critical thought, decolonization, and secularization are part and parcel of this inventory taking, itself a necessarily unfinished process. I have often asked myself exactly what it means for me as a teacher to uncoercively rearrange my students' desires. The intellectual misfit Hakim Bey, also known as Peter Lambert Wilson, in my reading, has called this a form of magic in a recent interview with Brooklyn Rail, where he stated that, quote, serious art works the same way. It's just that the purpose of the artist, we presume, is the liberation of the people they are communicating with, rather than their enchainment, as Bruno put it. He talked about bonds and binding, an ancient concept of magic, to bind people to your will. The artist does that too, perhaps the professor also. But to elevate, enlighten, and illuminate, rather than to endarken, enslave, and stupefy. The same techniques are at work. They are not to be transmitted in a merely rationalistic way. You cannot go to school to learn how to do this. You can learn a lot, but you can't, for example, really be taught art. You can be educated, led forth by a great teacher to discover what is in yourself, unquote, with apologies to my art colleagues. This binding of the self to the other, or of the other to the self, or both, is part of what Gayatri Spivak means by the rearrangement of desire. It is also connected to what Sigmund Freud meant when he described the unconscious as inherited psychic material and the origin of thought as being the alien implantation of consciousness. By this he meant not interstellar visitors, but the fundamental otherness of desire, the central place of the other and her desires in our construction of ourselves. As Stathis Gourgouris has argued in his book, Lessons in Secular Criticism, self-authorization, if it is to be genuine, cannot but remain predicated on self-interrogation and self-alteration. I have had the pleasure of exchanging othernesses with you, graduating class of 2014. We have implanted thoughts in each other's minds, shared laughter, worked hard, and simply been there with and for each other. In this being, we have been light. We have led each other to discover what was within and outside ourselves through discovering these beautiful and difficult others. It doesn't matter, in a sense, what happens after this. The being happened here, in this place. We were light. We have bound each other to each other through love, which is nothing other than sharing our processes of being and becoming. And now you will go forth to be and become other things. I know you will carry us with you. Thank you very much.
Since before I was even admitted to the college, the phrase lux esto has been floating on the periphery of my awareness. Maybe I glimpsed it on a letterhead or browsing Kay's website over 4 years ago, trying, mostly in vain, to imagine what my life would be like if I chose this place over all others. Lux esto. It's Latin, so though I didn't know what it meant, it was obviously significant. It's pretty. Always exciting to get an X in the mix of sounds. Lux. Lux, I now know, means light. But what exactly is light? Should we be light of heart, light of touch, light on our feet, always one step ahead of this dance? What is this light we are not supposed to create or find or guard, but be? That's an awfully intimate verb. I hate to do this, but Merriam-Webster defines light, in part, as a form of energy that makes it possible to see things. Not merely things, I would add, but things as they exist, the truth of things. We are meant, then, not to be the truth, not to be infallible or perfect or absolute, but to be the opening, the unveiling, the drawing of curtains that pours golden sun into shadowy rooms. But don't assume here that darkness has nothing to do with the light we've been becoming. We move through shadow in our days, with our bodies, with and without people we love. We move around and sometimes get caught in the shadows of the world we share. We carry shadows in our hearts, in our memories. Shadows are subconscious ways of knowing. Audre Lorde wrote of a place of deep personal truth within each of us that deserves, demands, expression, a place she described as both sacred and dark. Darkness, then, possesses its own kinds of truth, truths of pain, uncertainty, loneliness, injustice, and oppression in our communities, in our world. At times, especially when we actively consider our world or ourselves, darkness can feel overwhelming. Terence McKenna put it, "As the bonfires of knowledge grow brighter, the more the darkness is revealed to our startled eyes." So it is our job to illuminate these shadows both of and around us. It is our job to shed light on truths both beautiful and harrowing, graceful and perplexing, wherever we may find them. To illuminate in this way is to tell the whole story. Light needs dark like dark needs light. After all, sunlight spilled over the quad is most striking for tree shadows fracturing it like dry, cracked earth. The warming light of a campfire is most precious for the darkness that melts into its edges. The stars are only lovely for how they freckle against the velvety night sky like a fawn's spots. I need darkness and I need light. I need silence and exuberance. I need truths illuminated and truths hiding, waiting to be found. Illumination means wishing, searching. It means inquiring. It means yearning always for what more there is to find. I think we are ready to not run from darkness, but wrestle with it like a sibling, scrappy yet familiar. It is only through this unbashful grappling with dark that we can fully be light. So, since first year fall, we've been becoming light, and I think after 4 years, we are all ready to simply be.
So, you're here. You made it. Some of you, quite a few of you actually, I've known since before you came to K, when you were getting ready to travel here, and others I met during your time here. Some of you I don't know, but whether I know you or not, this was our space. This was the community that we shared, and what you did here mattered to me. And I hope that what I did mattered to you too. So you're here, and you're sitting right where I sat 21 years ago, and you're getting ready to leave. And the fact that I'm also here with you tonight is a huge honor and privilege for me. Some of you may already know that I have sort of a long and winding history with Kalamazoo College. I am the daughter of a now retired faculty member. I'm a graduate of Kalamazoo College. I've worked for FactMan. I've been part of the faculty. And for the last 11 years, I was lucky enough to be the international student advisor at K College. So when I talk to you about K, you should listen to me. So when you go, you'll carry this place with you. All of the good and all of the not so good, everything that had value and meaning for you. You'll take it with you. But what you may not know, in fact, you can't know this, part of you will stay here. So the light that you brought to K will stay behind, and it'll become part of this place. So the light that is you, that is your essence, it came here with you, and it will leave its mark on Kalamazoo College. So now I'm going to tell you a little story about Philippe Petit. He's a French high-wire artist who walked a wire stretched between the twin towers of the World Trade Center in August of 1974. So you're wondering now, why am I talking to you about Philippe Petit? I'm going to tell you. A few weeks ago, I was driving in my car, and I heard an interview with him. And every single thing that he said made me think of you tonight. So, August 1974, a week before he turned 25, he stepped out onto that wire, 1,350 feet above the ground, a quarter mile, and he spent 45 minutes on it. No harness, no safety net, just a 55-pound balancing pole to help him stay steady. And in those 45 minutes, he walked back and forth 8 times. He laid down, he kneeled, he danced on the wire. So he played on it. But this is important. Before he stepped out onto the wire, he had this thought. On one side, the mass of a mountain, a life I know. On the other, the universe of the clouds, so full of unknowns that it seems empty to us. And this, to me, is where you are right now. You're facing that universe, so new and unknown that it seems empty. But luckily, for you, you are not empty. You are full of the life that led you to K, full of the light that makes you, you, and now on top of that, you're full of everything that you gained during your time here. All of the knowledge and the experience you gathered here on campus and wherever else that you went as a K student. Philadelphia, Ecuador, the UK, France, Woodward Elementary School. A lot of what you gained here happened in a classroom or a lab, but a whole lot more happened outside of class. The people that you met, the differences that you were challenged by, and the similarities that you discovered. You are full. So what we're celebrating here tonight is you and who you have become in the last 4 years. We are celebrating your light. And I want to remind you of something that you have had with you this whole time, an important part of the light that you carry with you. It's your intuition, and it's your gut instinct. It's that little voice that tells you when something is right, and it tells you when something is not right. So my message for you tonight is this: do not disregard what you know, even if you can't explain how you know it. That knowledge, that voice or feeling, that light inside of each of us is vital. And I have to say, probably more so many times than the book smarts in our heads. It will guide you the rest of your life if you let it. So if you're quiet and you're still enough, you'll hear it, and it will lead you into the right decisions for you. So I'm going to bring this back to Philippe Petit to wrap it up. Wire walkers, trust your feet. Let them lead you. They know the way.
How many of you are 100% confident you know what lux esto actually means? I usually hear students and professors translate this phrase as be light, and this is almost right. But there's a subtle distinction in Latin that's lost when we translate our motto into English with those words. Now, lux indeed means light, but esto is what's called the future imperative of the verb esse, the word to be. Now, taking this nuance into account, a more precise translation of lux esto than be light would actually be you will be light, or become light, recognizing this command is ultimately intended for the future. Now, I bring this up not to lecture on some obscure piece of Latin grammar, as much as I would love to do that, but because I've been reflecting a lot lately on what significance we might glean from this more accurate translation, become light. The future is necessarily a nebulous place, and I can get overwhelmed by the pressure of what needs to be accomplished in the present. I want to feel successful now. I want to see the fruits of my labor now. I want to be light now. And when we feel strained by that desire for immediate gratification, it's easy to forget that college is something greater than a collection of academic motions. But a Kalamazoo college education is so much more than just another item on our life checklist. It's satisfying to reflect on all that we've accomplished since beginning this journey together 4 years ago. But that satisfaction alone is fleeting. The real significance of what we've accomplished as students of this college, the real impact that we now stand to leave on this world, this is something that we develop over our lifetimes. And today is just the beginning. We've only taken that first step in a lifelong fellowship and learning. We've only just begun being light. Now, like many of you here today, as a K student, I've been privileged with the opportunity to study in a foreign country, conduct original research for my SIP, participate in student organizations, and interact and form relationships with people from all over the world. I could contribute to academic support programs like the Writing Center, even as a chemistry major. And thanks to study abroad, I could explain to you, and in Spanish, what it's like getting chased by a herd of wild pigs while innocently counting butterflies in the Amazon rainforest. Although we graduate tomorrow having each experienced college in different ways, having earned degrees in different fields, one thing all of us now share is a greater appreciation of the world. We feel more at home in the world than we could when we sat in this very same room 4 years ago. Think of how much more you know now than you did back then. Now think of how much more you'll learn in the next 4 years, then 4 more years after that. Graduation is not so much a celebration of who you are now, but rather who you now have the potential to become. So, how will you continue becoming light as you leave K? I challenge everyone here today, commit to a lifetime of continued learning. Stay intellectually curious. Never be satisfied with shallow understanding. Confront your personal prejudices. Interact with people from different backgrounds and perspectives. You've all been doing this for the past 4 years, but don't let graduation be the end of it. You don't have to stop traveling abroad, learning new languages, exploring fields beyond your line of work, pursuing new interests for a richer appreciation of the world. We've all had the opportunity to experience the same thing firsthand. Living in a community of inquisitive, driven learners can change lives for the better. And your task now is to create and to cultivate similar communities. Take that gleaming ember that you are now and grow brighter by letting your light shine in everything you do. So lux esto, be light. Or better yet, become light. Take pride in all that you've learned these past 4 years, but more importantly, find excitement in all that you have left to learn, all you have left to contribute to the world. Reflect over the next few days on the light that you are now, and look forward to the light you will become.
I'd like to thank our speakers. So much wisdom has been shared in this place. Let's give them all a round of applause. Our program will end this evening with the singing and perhaps even the kazooing of the alma mater. After that's over, please allow the platform party to recess before departing the chapel. And now a farewell. As our time at this baccalaureate ceremony comes to an end, I know nothing more fitting than the words of the Reverend Joanne Saunders. Each beginning demands an ending. Every ending promises a beginning. Now is such a time. Go now, and may passion inspire you. May injustice trouble you. May hope comfort you. May friendships nourish you. May you sometimes get it right, and may you laugh when you don't. May peace surround you. May love permeate you. May gratitude overwhelm you. Go now, knowing that good and thoughtful and loving words have been spoken for you in this remarkable place, filled with friends, with teachers and with mentors, and also filled with wisdom and hope and dreams. And as you go, may you find the right questions to ask. May you give more than you have received. May you use the depth of your knowledge and the store of your compassion now and in the days to come. Go now in peace, live simply, gently, at home in yourselves and at home in the world. Act justly, speak honestly. May the love that overcomes all differences, that heals all wounds, that puts to flight all fears, that reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us, now and always.
your destination is not yet clear, may you trust this opening. Awaken your spirit to adventure, hold nothing back. Learn to find ease in risk. Soon you will be at home in a new rhythm. May your soul sense the world that awaits you. Amen.